There is a certain period of time in the Hajime no Ippo manga where Ippo and all the other characters are at the peak of their primes. Ippo was feared by other ranked boxers and fought perfectly without sustaining much damage. Itagaki slowly unleashed his true potential, proving he belonged with the big boys of the boxing world. Takamura dominated as always, and even Aokimura still had potential, not yet reduced to jobbers of the gym. In my opinion, the arc where these characters were at their best is peak Hajime no Ippo. The fights were all drawn in gritty, dirty fashion, the characters evolved rapidly, and others like Mashiba and Sawamura had their time to shine. It ends right before Ippo's quest to challenge other Pacific national champions, and then move on the world stage. This arc is very special, as nothing like these moments or fights will appear again in the manga. It serves as a marker for the upcoming fights and arcs of the other characters, like Itagaki evolving into the speed monster and Mashiba redeeming himself to become a true boxer. And this arc starts right after the anime ended. The anime left off right before Itadaki's semi-final match for the Rookie Kings tournament. Ippo is training Itagaki in preparation for a semi-final fight with Kumi there to support both boxers. She even asks Ippo if he has free time on the weekend, only for Itadaki's sister to ruin the mood. Itagaki, however, isn't interested in chit-chat. He's focused solely on his upcoming fight. We learn that while Itagaki has all the talent in the world, his biggest obstacle is a mental one, his self-confidence. He infamously lost to his rival Imai, who looks just like Ippo from Temu, and this has left him doubting his own boxing abilities. He's training hard to regain the confidence, especially since his next opponent is the same boxer he lost to in his first professional fight, Makino Fumito. Makino is known for cheating during his fights, utilizing the flicker jabs. Ippo wants to support Itagaki during the slow point in his confidence, so he consults the state with Kumi to analyze Makino's match. We then get a humorous scene where Mashiba, like a caveman, demands food from Kumi, who is having none of it and threatens him with violence. After analyzing Makino's match, Ippo and Itagaki run into Makino outside. Makino trash talks Itagaki, reminding him how he beat him by cheating and mocking him for bringing his girlfriend to the fight, only for Imai to correct him that Itadaki's girlfriend is actually his sister. When Ippo tries to defuse the situation, Makino trips him, which fires Itagaki even more, pushing him to train harder. Next, we're introduced to Brokoman, essentially Aoki with a ridiculous haircut who has somehow become an icon for kids and merchandise. Good for him! The Kamogawa boys also start betting on who will become this year's Rookie King champion, with Ippo putting his money on Itagaki. In preparation for Makino's flicker jabs, Itagaki seeks to spar with Mashiba, who at the time is the Japanese judo lightweight champion. Mashiba initially refuses, not wanting to associate with an unranked nobody like Itagaki, but Itagaki spills some juicy details about Ippo and Kumi's relationship to provoke Mashiba into sparring with him. We don't see the actual spar, but the aftermath shows Itagaki with a messed up face and Mashiba with a black eye. Despite this, the two become closer, even meeting up outside the gym. Kumi mistakenly thinks Mashiba has finally got a girlfriend and tries to stalk him with Ippo, but it turns out to be Itagaki instead. Mashiba and Itagaki start gossiping about Ippo and Kumi's stagnant relationship, much to Ippo and Kumi's embarrassment. They even discuss how Mashiba's overprotective nature is part of the problem. Eventually, Mashiba acknowledges that Kumi is her own person and needs to make her own decisions. Mashiba also asks why Itagaki is so determined to win the tournament, to which Itagaki responds that he wants to regain his confidence and make Ippo proud by proving he belongs in the professional boxing world. These chapters are especially endearing because they show the characters' more human side outside of their boxing careers. We then get some background on Makino and his inferiority complex. He regularly visits a sick child in a hospital who is his biggest supporter and who reminds Makino of himself. Makino reflects on how some people are born with talent and better genetics, while others have to grind daily just to keep up. He wants to prove that hard work can surpass natural talent by defeating both Imai and Itagaki. On the day of the fight, Itagaki was still not mentally prepared but still wanted to do his best. Makino's biggest fan was also present and wanted to win no matter what, to give the kid the courage to keep fighting his own illness. Mashiba was also present and secretly supported Itagaki. Makino threw out the flickers and made Itagaki all nervous. Makino wanted to push Itagaki to his limits, but Itagaki then got used to the flickers and started to knock them away. Things started to turn and Itagaki began to dominate the fight. He got Makino cornered and was just throwing a series of punches. It wasn't even a fair matchup anymore. By the start of the second round, Makino was already out of gas. It was a pitiful sight to see him throwing punches that simply did not connect and getting absolutely crushed. In the last ditch effort, he tried to throw an elbow and headbutt Itagaki, but Itagaki saw through them and was ready to end the match. Itagaki landed a powerful counter that ended the match and won it with minimal damage. Makino still gave the kid the courage to keep fighting. fighting, and Itagaki advanced to fight Imai in the finals of the tournament. This fight reminded Ippo of his desire to fight Miyata, which yes, is still a thing during this time, and he eagerly waited when the fight was about to get set up. But when he got into the gym, he got another kind of invitation for his fight. Ippo was called by Yagi and Kamogawa and was informed that he had 1 month to prepare for his title defense against the 7th ranked boxer Takuzo Karasawa, the previous year's Rookie King champion. Every high-ranked boxer refused to fight Ippo because of his destructive display of power. Ippo wanted to focus on the basics, so he decided to train from scratch for this fight with Karasawa and accepted the challenge. Meanwhile, Takamura informed Kamogawa that he was going on a trip around Japan while waiting for his next fight. This is something Takamura does after each of his world title fights. He goes on a trip for half an hour and returns just in time for the next fight, coinciding with Ippo's and Karasawa's match. At the same time, Sanada, the former Japanese bantamweight champion and the medical student Ippo fought during his first title defense, returned to his old gym to congratulate Karasawa on his upcoming national title fight with Ippo. Karasawa mentioned that he has an anti-Dempsey roll strategy, but the odds are 7-3 that he will lose, so he asked Sanada to help him with his training since Sanada has already experienced Ippo's fists firsthand. In preparation for the fight, Ippo does something similar to Kamogawa's Iron Fist training, where instead of punching logs in the hills, Ippo hammers logs into the hills to train his side muscles. He also trains with Kamogawa using the basic routine we have seen so many times before. Takamura on his trip gets lost, something very relatable as I often get lost myself when wandering around, which results in funny Instagram stories, so it's a win-win situation. Takamura helps a random guy in the countryside pull his car out of an accident, and this countryside happens to be Gerumichi's hometown, Ippo's very first kohai. They don't meet, and this is the last time we see Gerumichi in the story, so for the 3 Gerumichi fans watching this video, this is your moment to embrace him. We also see what Karasawa is up to. He's training his abs to prepare against Ippo's body blows that drain the life out of his opponents. Kamogawa and Ippo analyze Karasawa and conclude that he has very fast hands and is an outboxer, so they plan to target body shots to erase his footwork and make him immobile. Ippo was forbidden by the government to punch logs into the hill, so he had to rely on other training options. He also admits to Itagaki that he has used the Dempsey roll for too long and won't be using it for the time being. We get a random cut to Nekoto where he's robbed by a thief and is chasing after him. The plot twist is that the thief is Takamura, who's just on his way to find a hot spring where a lot of college babes are supposedly waiting for a dreamy tall strong man to appear, only for the dreamy babes to turn out to be monkeys. Takamura picks up a fight with a horde of monkeys and escapes the madness. He then finds himself in Nagoya, where Sawamura randomly spots him on the streets. Then he is in Osaka, where he buys a jar of pickled squid from Sendo's granny that will give anyone definite diarrhea. Takamura then calls Ippo from Fukuoka, and just as the squids hit him, he has to take a deep dump in the bushes. Later he enjoys ramen in Okinawa, where Shimabukuro catches him. Basically, Takamura makes a whole Japan tour during this little trip, and nobody at the gym believes him. On the day of the weigh-ins, Ippo and Karasawa check each other's bodies. Ippo expected Karasawa to train his lower body, while Sanada observed that Ippo's back muscles had grown, mistakenly thinking that it was for the Dempsey roll. Sanada confirms that he will be at Karasawa's corner and has his back to defeat Ippo in the match. Meanwhile, Ippo feels a sense of uncertainty, as if something is missing, even though he trained to perfection for the match. Just in time, Takamura returns from a trip and gives Ippo some encouraging words to motivate him. Ippo takes these words to heart and promises Takamura that he will demolish Karasawa. Takamura also offers the squid he took from Seno to Ippo, which thankfully Ippo refuses because something really bad happens later. However, the other Kamogawa boys eat the squid, which later leads to Aoki's downfall. On the day of the fight, the Kamogawa boys are late because they took a deep dump due to the squid, and to make matters even worse, Takamura fingers Aoki to death for loss, causing him to run back to the toilets. When the match begins, Karasawa tries to take the lead, which turns out to be a fatal mistake, as Ippo charges right back at him, confusing Karasawa even further. The psychological pressure causes Karasawa to land fast jabs that have little impact on Ippo. Karasawa tries to outbox as long as he can, but before he knows it, he's cornered and trapped. Ippo capitalizes on this and lands a devastating body shot on Karasawa, who starts panicking. This is not what he prepared for, as he realizes that he underestimated Ippo. With nowhere to escape, Karasawa clinches Ippo to avoid damage, but this turns out to be a grave mistake, as Ippo can easily punch through a clinch into his opponent's stomach. Sanada sees this coming and orders Karasawa to let go, but Ippo jabs him instead. Karasawa has no choice but to block Ippo's heavy punches. Desperate, he throws himself into Ippo, causing both to collapse to the ground, ending the round. By the end of the round, Karasawa is sweating bullets while Ippo's camp remains cool-headed as always. Karasawa now has to shift his strategy and push Ippo into the ropes. He tries to intimidate Ippo by using his footwork and throwing jabs to lure him in, but the psychological pressure is too great and Karasawa finds himself cornered again. Ippo weaves in and it looks like he's going to use the daisy roll. Karasawa prepares to counter, but to his surprise, Ippo goes lower and aims for a body shot. Karasawa grits his teeth, but he's not prepared for Ippo's monstrous strength. On the verge of giving out, Karasawa tries to counter Ippo with his last bit of spirit, but Ippo sees it coming and counters with a devastating blow of his own that scares the crowd. Karasawa dramatically tries to hold onto the ropes, but his spirit can no longer support his broken down body, and he falls to the mat, ending the match within just 2 rounds, with Ippo taking nearly no damage. After the fight, the Kamigawa boys met up outside the Korokan Hall and wondered why Aoki was still inside. Itagaki decided to check on him and happened to run into Imai. Imai mentioned that Ippo's match will serve as a great reference material for his upcoming bout with Itagaki, and he promised to find the fastest route to challenge Ippo for the Japanese title. Imai also called out Itagaki for not aiming to surpass Ippo and instead of choosing to be his disciple. They set up a bet for their upcoming fight, with Imai suggesting that if he wins, Itagaki should introduce his sister to Imai. Irritated by the stupid request, Itagaki nearly brawled with Imai until Aoki finally emerged from the bathroom, covered in jizz and out of bodily fluids. Imai left the hall and Aoki had to go back into the bathroom. The next day, Ippo and Itagaki watched Volk's match in America, where he fought the 4th ranked boxer and won easily in the first round. It was revealed that Ippo is ranked 12th in the WBC, but Ippo expressed that he's nowhere near Ricardo's level, recalling how Ricardo knocked him out without any issues during their sparring match just a few hundred chapters ago. Back at the gym, the hottest news was that all the Brokoman merchandise was being thrown away since Aoki's shizzy mishap made the news and became cancelled by the masses. While training, Itagaki once again mentioned that he is physically ready but lacks the mental confidence needed to succeed. He sought Ippo's advice on how to overcome this pitiful state, but Ippo admitted he had no clue either since he also struggles with low self-esteem. Kumi appears and wants to support both fighters, which prompts Itagaki to reveal how much Imai irritated him by requesting to meet his sister if he won their match. Ippo and Kumi then share the same fantasy where Ippo would ask to date Kumi if he were to be Mashiba. However, snapping back to reality, Ippo just begins to cry because he can't possibly request something like that. Later, Ippo and Itagaki go into a store and notice that Umezawa's one-shot manga has won an award, so they want to congratulate him. Itagaki and Umezawa discuss Ippo's mentality in fights and conclude that Ippo always enters as a challenger. Meanwhile, Ippo and Umezawa discuss how Itagaki views himself inferior to his opponents when entering his fights. That day, Itagaki experiences an inner crisis, realizing that he lacks so much even before entering the fight: the skills, knowledge, confidence, and most importantly, power. Ippo and Itagaki have a sparring match, though we don't see this full spar. Takamura reveals afterward that Ippo could have knocked Itagaki out if he were serious. Overhearing this, Itagaki demands to know what he truly lacks, and Takamura enlightens him, pointing out that his routine is too predictable, making him vulnerable to being knocked out easily. On the day of the Rookie Kings tournament finals, the Kamigawa boys gave Itagaki their best wishes, with Ippo offering his usual encouragement, telling Itagaki to do his best. This was the day Itagaki had waited for years, a chance to finally prove that he belongs in the ring by defeating his long-lasting rival, who had overshadowed his true potential, and to reclaim his self-confidence. When the bell rang, Imai charged at Itagaki, who immediately used his outboxing skills to keep his distance. For the first half of the round, Itagaki maintained his range and jabbed Imai effectively, forcing him to stay on the defensive. However, Imai wasn't about to let Itagaki control the fight with just jabs and want him to not get too comfortable. Realizing he couldn't win simply by jabbing from the distance, Itagaki knew he needed to step into the lion's den and inflict real damage. As Itagaki closed the distance, he began to land solid blows on Imai. Imai tried to counter, but Itagaki's technical skills were superior, and he nearly landed a knockout punch just as the bell rang, signaling the end of the first round. When the second round began, it seemed as though Itagaki was continuing his domination. However, Imai had started to adapt to Itagaki's routine and began predicting his movements. Itagaki had no choice but to keep moving forward, dodging Imai's punches as fast as he could. Fueled by an adrenaline rush, Itagaki compared the situation to what Ippo must experience every time he is in the ring. The round ended, but Itagaki couldn't wait to get back into the ring. He was too exhilarated. Itagaki became the aggressor, and Shinoda noticed that something had finally awakened inside of him. Itagaki fought more aggressively, but as a result, he also began to take more hits. Despite this, he didn't care. He was having too much fun to even think about giving up. However, what Itagaki failed to notice was that Imai had been targeting body shots, which gradually eliminated Itadaki's footwork, rendering him unable to outbox anymore. Forced into this close quarters fight against a powerhouse like Imai, Itagaki had to endure his heavy punches. Now being toyed with, Itagaki was compelled to give everything he had left in the tank to avoid being knocked out. The round ended, and in an attempt to encourage Itagaki, Shinoda made a cheesy wordplay telling him to fight with guts, guts to the gutsu, or something stupid like that. Itagaki continued to endure the punishment Imai inflicted, recalling the suffering that all the other Kamogawa boxers had to endure in their fights. He kept fighting back, but still wasn't enough to turn the tide. At the end of the round, Itagaki collapsed into his corner, nearly unconscious, but Yagi managed to save him the last second by placing the chair under him, making another corny pun by saying "this is a nice," by nice being the chair in Japanese, which is also very stupid. Ippo came over to encourage Itagaki to keep fighting, which gave Itagaki a boost of motivation. Determined, Itagaki went into the final round with the resolve to defeat Imai. The two exchanged punches, but Itagaki was simply too weak and ended up taking a devastating knockdown. In the last minute of the round, Itagaki focused on surviving the barrage of punches from Imai, hoping to hold out until the final bell and leave the decision on the hands of the judges. With the last bit of spirit he had left, Itagaki threw a flurry of jabs, but he was completely out of gas and bracing for one final punch. Just before Imai could land it, the bell rang and Itagaki was knocked out from exhaustion. The results were announced and Itagaki won the fight by decision, but he was too beaten up to celebrate. Itagaki expressed that his victory was due to Ippo's support and thanked him deeply. Now that Itagaki had won the tournament, he had achieved a national ranking, which gave him the confidence he needed. Sando was in the audience and remarked that the match was nothing special. He was accompanied by his kohai, the West Rookie King champion Hoshi. Hoshi made it clear that he wanted to fight Ippo and issued a challenge. If he could defeat Itagaki in the All Rookie Kings tournament, he would face Ippo for the title. Additionally, Sando revealed that he wanted to fight Ippo again and actually beat him. He even declared if he lost the third time, he would unalive himself. Actually, Ippo decided he no longer wanted to be the Japanese champion anymore. He was eager to relinquish the title to finally face Miyata for the OPBF title and requested a match with Kamogawa. Kamogawa accepted Ippo's offer and promised to request a match as soon as possible. The decision motivated Ippo like never before and he was eagerly anticipating his match with Miyata. Miyata's camp also accepted the challenge and the long-awaited match was set. Itagaki meanwhile was in the hospital and received visits from Ippo and Ippo from Walmart. It seemed that Imai came to congratulate Itagaki on winning the match, but he was also there because he knew Nanako would be visiting as well. Itagaki also loved staying in the hospital since Kumi would nurse him like a baby, so both of these weirdos enjoyed their time in the hospital. Back at the gym, the Kamogawa boys poked fun at the Gatsu and then "this is a nice pun" from the Itagaki match, but they were quickly scolded for it. Ippo was invited to Kamogawa's office, where it was officially announced that Ippo would fight Miyata for the OPBF title. However, the match was scheduled for 6 months later. To ensure Ippo didn't suffer from ring rust before this major bout, he needed to defend the Japanese title one last time before the OPBF title. Kamogawa noted that the OPBF title fight would be the last fight before heading for the world, so Ippo accepted the challenge and eagerly awaited his next opponent. The next day, Ippo picked up Itagaki from the hospital with a car, and while arriving at the gym, almost ran over Aoki. It's also revealed that Itagaki will not fight in the All Rookie King finals since he is too injured to compete. Initially frustrated, Itagaki accepted the fact that he couldn't participate. Ippo also gives Itagaki the baton to inherit the Japanese title in the near future when he relinquishes it. Ippo's last challenger is set, and it's an old man, a 31-year-old veteran Take. To gather more information about him, Ippo seeks the help of Date, who has become a coach at his own gym. Date mentions that Take was scheduled to face him back when he first won the Japanese title, when Take was ranked first. Date admits that he was quite nervous about facing Take, but Take withdrew before their match began. We learned that the reason Take pulled out was because his son was born and he officially retired from the sport. However, his son became a target of bullying due to a gossip that his father was too afraid and fragile to keep competing. So Take wanted to prove to his son that he still had the fire in him to become a great boxer. His record is 22 wins, 11 losses and 1 draw, as he is too rusty and took him longer to challenge for the title again. Despite this, he has never been KO'd in his career and will stand tall no matter what. Ippo admits that in instead of focusing what's in front of him, he was too fixated on Miyata and realized he shouldn't lose sight of his current challenge. In preparation for this fight, he trained his hooks and stamina to outlast the veteran. By the way, he is 31 years old but looks like the oldest looking dude in the entire manga. On the day of the weigh-ins, Take did his best 2020 cosplay and looked as fragile as he could be. Kamogawa then revealed to Ippo that it was all an act to gain sympathy for the fight. Basically a trick, and it certainly wouldn't be the last one that Take had up on his sleeve. On the day of the fight, Take brought his son with him to witness him become a champion, which, while not outright stated, was another ploy to garner more sympathy from Ippo, who no longer has his father beside him. As soon as the match began, before they even touched gloves, Take said "F that" and immediately started throwing punches. Ippo was caught off guard but quickly got into his rhythm and turned it into a slugfest. Just as Ippo was about to follow up with a hook, Take went down unexpectedly, making Ippo think the fight might already be over. However, it turned out that Take was faking the injury. He quickly charged at Ippo and clung to him, wrapping his arms around him in a clinch. He repeated this about 3 times until Ippo was forced to use his elbows to break free. At this point, Take claimed to know Ippo's weakness, which confused Ippo. If you still haven't guessed, these were all psychological tricks to mess with Ippo's mind and throw him off his game. Ippo charged at Take again, but for some reason he couldn't reach him before the bell rang. In the next round, Ippo tried to punch him again, only to find his fist still couldn't connect. It then dawned on Ippo that Take had switched his stance to a southpaw stance. Ippo hadn't trained to fight against a southpaw and was initially overwhelmed. He decided to block himself while charging right into Take, who responded by charging at Ippo as well, putting one shoulder on him. Ippo tried to land liver blows, but Take deflected them and did something no other boxer had done in the series. From the short distance, he started to throw uppercuts at Ippo repeatedly, leaving Ippo unable to land a hit. By the end of the round, Kamogawa showed at Ippo to pay close attention to what Take was doing. Ippo took these words to heart and was somewhat able to hit Take through his guard. However, Take got lower and positioned himself again to hit Ippo with more uppercuts. Ippo saw through it, dodged and countered with a light hook, which Take anticipated. Take responded with another uppercut, followed by a flurry of uppercuts again and again. Ippo managed to throw some punches of his own, but they seemed to have little to no impact on Take. In the next round, instead of charging in recklessly, Ippo started to march forward methodically, slowly breaking down Take's defense. But Take again got low into position and took heavy punches that seemed to have no effect, while Ippo received the most damage. Take even managed to cut Ippo's eye, which signaled that things were getting really serious. If Take wanted to, he could exploit this opening and potentially win via referee stoppage. Kamogawa wanted Ippo to hit him, so he did, and Kamogawa revealed that to defeat Take, Ippo should do everything Take does but better. If Take hits hard, Ippo should hit harder. If Take goes low, Ippo should go lower. So when Take went into position again, Ippo pushed him back, went lower himself, and finally saw an opening to send an uppercut of his own. Now, Ippo was the one going low and landing uppercuts on Take. Take abandoned this and opened up his arms, inviting Ippo to slug it out. Even though Take managed to land some decent hits, engaging in a slugfest with Ippo is the worst way to speedrun your life. Things got so bad for Take that Ippo even made his son cry, worried that his dad might not survive the fight. By the end of the round, Ippo thought Take might be unconscious as the man simply refused to go down. We then see that Ippo is right. Take is in a dreamlike state, envisioning his son being disappointed in him. Even the way he stands up from his chair is almost inhuman. Determined to end this before inflicting long-lasting injuries to Take, Ippo throws a devastating punch that sends him flying. But to Ippo's surprise, Take stands back up like a zombie. Ippo unleashed the Dempsey roll and nearly ended the poor man's life with it. However, just before Ippo could land the devastating blow, Take got into his rotation position again and landed a powerful uppercut. At this point, Ippo had enough and delivered the most savage ending combo of the entire series. First, he dodged the uppercut and sent his own counter uppercut to Take, lifting him a full meter off the ground. With Take's son crying out for his father's life, Ippo delivered a career-ending hook, turning out the lights for good and ending the match. Although Take didn't die, it took him a few minutes to get back up from the fight. Afterwards, Take's son asked his father to teach him how to box, which concluded Take's character arc. Kamogawa then informed the press that with this match, Ippo would relinquish the Japanese belt and issue a challenge to Miyata for the OPBF title. Back home, Ippo reflected on Take and even remembered his own dad, learning a lesson he will not forget, to fight for something greater than himself. After the Take fight, Ippo went back to the gym where the boys were training. It had been announced that Takamura would defend the WBC Middleweight Championship and Aokimura would be on the undercard, fighting Electric Battery and Papaya again. Aoki especially wanted to take revenge on Papaya for being the reason for Aoki's haircut. It no longer looked like broccoli, but instead there were just a few pubes left on his head. Ippo wanted to watch Miyata's last OPBF title defense before they faced off, so Aoki organized for Kumi to go with Ippo to the match, which made Ippo nervous since he would be watching the match with his boyfriend together with his girlfriend. They both met up and had a nice chat until Mashiba appeared out of nowhere and ruined the mood. Ippo asked if Mashiba would defend the junior lightweight championship soon, so which Mashiba said he would, but he lacked a challenger since every high-ranked boxer feared him. However, he had one opponent in his mind that he absolutely wanted to crush before heading for the world stage, which Ippo initially assumed was himself. Miyata's match was about to begin, which Mashiba didn't care for and actually hoped for an upset victory by Miyata's opponent, which irritated Ippo. When the match began, Miyata received some fouls, including a headbutt, but he countered and dominated through 2 rounds. During the timeout, Miyata caught a sight of someone familiar in the crowd, Sakaguchi, the manager of the former OPBF champion Arnie Gregory. Next to him was someone menacing, just staring at him. Miyata was too distracted by their presence and lost his rhythm. He mentioned that he recognized this menacing man but couldn't recall where from. He received another headbutt and it started to look like he might actually lose in an upset. This got Miyata out of control. Instead of relying on his usual cool-headed style, he completely abandoned it and just started throwing hands. Did I just say throwing hands? I meant Miyata was beating on his opponent like he's dead meat, even while the guy was on his knees. For good measures, Miyata threw one last devastating punch until the ref stepped in and ended the match. It was an all-around shocking moment that left Miyata unsatisfied. Worse yet, Miyata broke his fist during the fight, meaning his match with Ippo had to be postponed. Miyata still couldn't get the menacing guy out of his head, and as if fate wanted it, the man appeared in front of him, starting to talk about destiny and stuff. The man charged at Miyata, continuing his "this is fate" speech until Miyata Sr. shooed him away. Back at the gym, Ippo learned about Miyata's broken fist and accepted the fact that the fight needed to be postponed to allow Miyata's fist to heal. Meanwhile, after Miyata's match, Mashiba's next challenger had been set, and he was thrilled to know that his challenger had accepted. Mashiba's next defense was going to be against Sawamura. This news shocked everyone, knowing that it would be a bloodbath, while Kimura was just having the time of his life. 2 monsters in his weight division will beat the crap out of each other until retirement, giving Kimura a greater chance to capture the title. But as you will see later, Kimura's hypothesis couldn't be more wrong. Kimura's fight with the electric battery was about to begin, and he wanted to use the same strategy as last time to defeat Battery. Only this time, Battery came prepared, having sculptured his abs to perfection. The two had a mud match that ended in a draw. Aoki's fight was next, and he had to reveal the world his 3 remaining pieces of hair, which caused Papaya to lose control. Aoki wanted revenge for that haircut, but was overwhelmed and instantly downed. He tried his best to win, but the match also ended in a draw, leaving Takamura to finish the job as the MVP of the Kamogawa gym, ending his match in just 1 punch. The next day, the boys were discussing why Mashiba would want to fight Sawamura and who could win their potential matchup. Itagaki went for a spar with Mashiba, while Ippo met up with Kumi to gather more information. Mashiba revealed to Itagaki that ever since his fight with Kimura, he realized he had been getting soft and needed to regain his bloodlust to be a great boxer again. He promised in front of his parents' grave that he would not lower himself, eliminate anyone who dared to stand in his path, and to obliterate anyone who laid a finger on his sister. Back with Ippo, he remembered why Mashiba specifically chose Sawamura. Since Sawamura had once laid his hands on Kumi, Mashiba wanted to make him pay by legally beating the living crap out of him, unleashing his inner frustration and hatred all at once to regain his bloodlust. Other characters also discussed who would win the fight. Takamura revealed to Nekota that Sawamura had a greater chance to win, while Kimura predicted that Mashiba would come out on top. However, when Itagaki returned from his spar with Mashiba, everyone was shocked to see that Itagaki had almost no injuries on his face, suggesting that Mashiba had indeed gone soft on him. We get a POV from Sawamura, learning that Mashiba is ranked 8th in the world, and Sawamura is asked if he is sure about fighting him. Sawamura sees it as an opportunity to reach the same level as Ippo and finally surpass him. This time, he doesn't want to leave his opponent half alive. He wants to prey on him until he's completely out of options. Sawamura has only grown more insane since his fight with Ippo. Things become even more concerning when Mashiba tells Kumi not to watch the match, as even he knows it won't end pretty. At the weigh-ins, both men had a massive stare down and exchanged threats that the older one will leave the match alive. On the day of the fight, everyone was there. The Kamogawa boys, Takamura and Nekota fresh from their snowstorm adventure, and even Kumi. Ippo sat next to Kumi for the sold-out fight everyone was excited to see. Sawamura entered the ring dressed like a dragon, while Mashiba came dressed dressed like a Grim Reaper. They had one last long stare down before chaos erupted, and they readied themselves. When the match began, both fighters performed perfectly in the first round, with next to no dialogue. Both revealed their abilities in the ring, showcasing their best moves with many close calls but no clean hits. After 2 rounds straight of close calls with no punches landed, both got tired of it and decided to up their strategies, which in their case meant cheating. Sawamura starts by hitting Mashiba with the back of his hand, which is illegal in boxing. The ref noticed and gave Sawamura a warning, but while the ref was distracted, Mashiba threw a punch out of frustration. Then both fighters started hitting each other, completely ignoring the ref. The fight shifted dramatically from a professional boxing match to an all-out cheating fest. Mashiba elbowed Sawamura in the back of his head, Sawamura headbutted Mashiba, and the ref stood there like the most useless idiot, unable to control the chaos. Mashiba noted that Sawamura had incredible power, the same power he used when he hit Kumi. Fueled by rage, Mashiba landed a powerful punch that sent Sawamura down to the mat. Sawamura got back up and Mashiba unleashed a series of flickers. Sawamura, having gotten used to Mashiba's rhythm, stepped inside and threw a devastating counter. Though Mashiba survived it, Sawamura kneed him to the mat, knocking him unconscious. Mashiba got back up, now semi-unconscious, and went down to the mat again. He quickly rose and threw hands with Sawamura once more, only to get overwhelmed and go down again. Sawamura, getting bored, just kicked down Mashiba in the head, which finally made the ref do his goddamn job and deduct a point from Sawamura. The kid brought Mashiba back to his senses and he was more enraged than hurt. He wanted to slug it out with Sawamura, but ended up getting overwhelmed until the end of the round. In the next rounds, the crowd started to cheer for Mashiba to win the fight fairly. What Mashiba did instead, threw himself into Sawamura and tried to elbow him. When that didn't work, he just bluntly headbutted Sawamura, which also earned him a point reduction. Now Mashiba started to dominate Sawamura because the headbutt had caused Sawamura to lose vision in one of his eyes. Mashiba finally downed Sawamura with a chopping left and felt satisfied with himself. Sawamura, feeling overwhelmed, quickly got back up. Mashiba wasted no time and punched the crap out of Sawamura, while Sawamura instinctively countered each of Mashiba's blows after he was hit. This continued for the remainder of the round, with Mashiba hitting and Sawamura countering. In the next round they continued to hit each other simultaneously. Sawamura refused to give up until he reached the same heights as Ippo, while Mashiba just wanted to beat Sawamura until he could no longer move. Mashiba finally managed to dominate Sawamura, which satisfied his thirst for bloodlust. Mashiba wanted more blood, but Sawamura still fought back. Actually, this was part of Sawamura's strategy. He let Mashiba hit him until the perfect opportunity for a devastating counter presented itself. Just as Sawamura was about to go down, Mashiba aimed to send him to hell with one final chopping right. Sawamura saw his chance and landed the punch straight into Mashiba's heart. It took Mashiba a while to process it, but he eventually went down. Sawamura, feeling accomplished but exhausted, also collapsed. Now both men needed to get back up faster than the other one to win, but neither could. Both stood up, out of breath and barely conscious, ready to continue the fight. Both had flashbacks of their lives leading up to this moment and were determined to end it once and for all. The crowd cheered for them to continue, which irritated Mashiba. He remembered why he wanted to fight Sawamura in the first place. He wanted him gone for good. As the ref was checking on Sawamura, out of nowhere, Mashiba blasted him. Did I just say blast? He was punching him like he was dead meat. The ref ordered him to stop, but Mashiba, blinded by blood loss, finished Sawamura off with a devastating chopping right to the face, sending him crashing down into the ropes. Then Mashiba followed it up with a hard left straight, knocking Sawamura out of the ring, where he landed head first onto the concrete floor. Mashiba had done it now and was satisfied with his actions, but the ref wasn't. He disqualified Mashiba, meaning Mashiba lost both his title and world ranking because he couldn't control himself. Sawamura was stretched out of the arena and the crowd was just shocked by what they just witnessed. Outside the hall, Ippo tried to cheer Kumi up, but Kumi revealed that she may never like boxing and what it does to people. Sawamura's camp thought he was finished, only for Sawamura to suddenly wake up. He saw the championship he had been awarded and was overwhelmed to have finally achieved his goal. He quietly bowed to his camp and left the building. Overcome with joy, he got into his bicycle, sped off too fast and was consumed by the bright lights of the highway. And then we get the shot of an accident. The next day, Sendo called Ippo with tears in his eyes and informed that Sawamura should be remembered as a great boxer cancer, and that his fight with Mashiba had been his last appearance. Sawamura obviously didn't die, but the accident forced him to retire and he could no longer compete, that's all. We also learned that Mashiba almost lost his boxing license, but instead got a 1-year suspension and could no longer compete in the junior lightweight division. Everyone was upset by this news, except for Kimura, who ruined the mood by celebrating the fact that two monsters were no longer in his weight division. Oh man, if he only knew what was coming for him. To get everyone in a better mood, the boys organized a baseball match. Now, I'm not a professional, nor do I know anything about baseball at all, but in short, it goes exactly as you'd expect. Aokimura dominates while Ippo, Itagaki and Takamura suck. They only win thanks to some Deus Ex vampire involvement. Meanwhile, Aoki's cut keeps getting worse and worse. The next day, Ippo and Itagaki went to Osaka to watch one of Hoshi and Sando's matches. Hoshi one-shots his opponent and starts yapping, which gets Sando upset. He orders Aoshi to stay in the locker room until he returns. Sando, of course, absolutely dominates his opponent and then runs into Ippo. They meet up and have a nice chat. Ippo mentions how Sando now exclusively fights Mexican boxers, and Sando explains it's to get used to their style so he can eventually challenge the strongest Mexican boxer, Ricardo Martinez. Sando also says how impressed he is with Hoshi, noting that he couldn't knock Hoshi down even once in their sparring. Itagaki takes note of this since he will fight Hoshi in the near future. Speaking of Hoshi, Sando forgot to take him out of the locker room. Before Sando takes off, he mentions Ippo's obsession with Miyata and says he doesn't think their fight will ever happen, as he believes they aren't destined to meet. This understandably upsets Ippo, who reminds Sando that they promised to fight each other. Sando's reasoning is that he believes that he and Ippo are the ones destined to fight off, so he plans to take off the world title off of Martinez and challenge Ippo for a third time. Back at the gym, Takamura spits on Aoki's hair, which is important to the plot. Itagaki has another brief fight where he wins via decision, and the boys find a bike track to do their road work. The place is full of dog crap, and Takamura runs right into it. He blames Wampo and jumps into the sea and dips into the unknown. Seeking revenge on Aokimura for no reason, Takamura decides to throw some dog crap at him, not wanting to be the only one covered in it, but to his surprise, all the dog crap is gone. Desperate for a solution, Takamura takes a dump himself and hurls at Aoki's bald head, blaming Ippo for it. Itadaki's big match against Hoshi was coming up, so Aokimura trash-talked how Itagaki never improves alongside them, and he gossiped all the blame on their coach Shinoda. Shinoda overheard all of this and requested to be released as a coach. The only condition for him to stay was if Itagaki won his fight against Hoshi, which put more pressure on Itagaki since he already had to fight a super strong opponent. If he lost, not only would he lose his rankings and his coach, but the guy who beat him would get to fight Ippo for the title. Itagaki focused up and was determined to win. Hoshi charged right at him and something strange began to happen. Itagaki saw Hoshi in slow motion and then delivered the most awesome counter in the entire series, sending Hoshi crashing down to the mat. Shinoda mentioned that Itagaki finally unleashed his potential and was now fighting with full confidence. Whatever Hoshi threw at him, Itagaki dodged casually, making it look too easy. Then Itagaki threw a series of punches that sent Hoshi down to the mat for good. Hoshi tried to give a rah-rah speech, claiming it wasn't over, but trust me, I covered the storyline and it's over for Hoshi. Aoki's hair finally grew back after everything that had happened, and now he sought revenge on Takamura for all the crap literally he put in him through. He called all the boys to his shop and offered some free ramen noodles. What they didn't know is that Takamura's bowl was full of bird crap meant to take him out. Chaos broke out when everyone started to swap him bowls, turning it into a game of Russian roulette to see who gets the bird's nest. Kimura had to leave and Aoki, not wanting to look suspicious, ate Kimura's bowl. Predictably, it was the bird crap. He got sick, and the next chapter, which is essential for storytelling, I guarantee it, Takamura teabagged Aoki. At the fishing boat business, Ippo realized how much of a toll his mother endures when she works. Since his fight with Miyata was coming up, Ippo decided it would be his last professional fight. He would be satisfied with the outcome either way and wanted to help his mom out more. However, Miyata suddenly appeared, bent to his knees, and deeply apologized. Ippo was confused and Miyata bluntly cancelled their match. Ippo still couldn't understand why, but Miyata got up and and left, saying they just weren't fated to fight. Ippo spent the entire day trying to process what happened and left deeply disappointed. Kamogawa was rightfully furious about the cancellation. It was Ippo's rematch, the press already knew, and they were just destroying their trust with them. In the end, Kamogawa told Miyata Sr. that he was cutting all ties with them and never wanted to be associated with them ever again. At training, Ippo struggled since he no longer had a goal to look up to. Kamogawa tried to cheer him up by telling him to look forward, to aim for greater fighters, but Ippo was still hurt. This got Kamogawa enraged and he ordered Ippo to leave. Amidst Ippo's depression phase, Mari appeared and cheered him up. She mentioned that despite his 19-fight KO record, his fists were still small. She told him that he carries all the dreams and aspirations of the boxers he's fought in his fists, and quitting over something sissy like not fighting your boyfriend was a whack reason for giving up. Ippo remembered that Date told him the same thing and came to the realization that he hadn't yet achieved his true potential. He couldn't let the dreams of others down and needed to carry the torch for a greater good. And maybe, just maybe, by doing so he'll find the true answer to what it takes to become strong. Ippo returned to the gym and begged Kamogawa for guidance. Kamogawa explained that Ippo was still too green to challenge Martinez. To rise through the world rankings, he needed to work his way up by first becoming the top ranked fighter. To achieve this, Ippo had to become the uncrowned champion of the OPBF and challenge other national boxers from the Pacific region to advance his rankings. Ippo accepted this challenge and set to become stronger, with his first opponent being the Thai featherweight champion Scratch J. Jimmy Sisfa. And this brings us to the end of the special build-up arc that will lay the foundation of the upcoming arc. If you have enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more Hajime and Ippo content. I'm the Reading Crow and thanks for watching.